The streets of Vega 9 Colony were never truly quiet. Day and night, the hum of hovering cargo haulers filled the air, mixing with the chatter of traders and the metallic clank of machinery from nearby workshops. Neon lights flickered over narrow walkways, and the smell of grilled street food blended with the faint scent of engine oil. In the middle of it all was Jackson Reed's repair shop. It was a small place, squeezed between a pawn store and an old hollow cinema. The front sign was faded, but the little bell above the door still rang cheerfully when customers came in. Jackson worked long hours, fixing whatever came his way, from faulty plasma cutters to old hover bikes. Life wasn't easy. The big automated repair stations run by corporations were cheaper and faster, but some people still preferred the careful hands of a human mechanic. Jackson made just enough to pay his rent and keep his tools in good shape. He didn't complain much. He had learned that life on the fringe colonies was about surviving quietly. That evening, a cold wind swept through the colony's streets. Jackson was closing the shop when he saw them. Two small figures huddled under a broken heat vent at the far end of the alley. At first, he thought they were kids from the colony. But as he got closer, he realized their skin had a faint lavender tone, and their eyes were larger than human eyes, glowing softly in the dim light. Their clothes were thin, patched together from scraps. They didn't look up as he approached. One of them shivered, pulling a torn blanket tighter around her shoulders. The other tried to block the wind for her. "Hey," Jackson said softly. "You two okay?" They both froze. The older one, maybe. In her early teens, though it was hard to tell with alien features, gave a small shake of her head. "No trouble," she whispered in a strange accent. "We will leave." Jackson looked at the way their hands trembled and the hollowness in their faces. It was obvious they hadn't eaten in a while. "You look like you haven't had a warm meal." "In days," he said. "Come on, my shop's warm. I've got stew on the stove." The younger one's eyes widened a little at the word stew, but the older one hesitated. She seemed ready to refuse out of pride or fear. Jackson gave a small smile. "Look, it's freezing out here. You'll do me a favor by helping me finish the pot, all right?" After a moment, she nodded slowly. Inside the shop, the smell of cooking stew filled the air. Jackson had been making it earlier from whatever ingredients he could afford: root vegetables, some local herbs, and a bit of meat from the market. He brought 2 bowls to the small table in the corner, and the girls sat down cautiously. The first spoonful seemed to break whatever wall they had built inside. Soon, they were eating as if they hadn't tasted food in weeks. Jackson didn't rush them. He just sat nearby, sipping his own bowl and keeping the conversation light. "What's your name?" he asked. The older girl looked at him for a long moment, then shook her head. "Not safe," she said quietly. "All right," Jackson said, shrugging. "No names then. Just eat." When the bowls were empty, he brought them fresh bread and poured some warm tea from a metal flask. The younger one smiled for the first time, a small, shy smile, as she wrapped her hands around the steaming cup. After the meal, Jackson pointed to the back room. "There's an old couch there. It's not much, but it's warm. You can sleep there tonight." The girls looked at each other, as if silently asking whether they could trust him. The older one finally gave a small nod. They settled onto the couch, curling up under a heavy blanket Jackson kept for the colder nights. By the time Jackson finished locking the shop and checking the tools, both of them were asleep. The next morning, sunlight spilled through the shop's dusty windows. The couch was empty. The blanket was neatly folded. The girls were gone. On the workbench, however, sat a small object, a carved stone about the size of a coin. It was smooth, with swirling patterns etched into its surface, patterns that shimmered faintly when the light hit them. Jackson turned it over in his hand, wondering where they had gotten it. He had never seen anything quite like it. They hadn't left a note, but the stone felt like a thank you. Jackson placed it on his desk, using it as a paperweight. Over time, it became just another part of the shop, something his eyes would glance over 100 times a day without really seeing it. Life went back to its usual rhythm: repairs, late nights, bills, and the endless hum of the colony outside. Jackson never told anyone about the two girls. It was just a small act of kindness on a cold night, nothing more, or so he thought. What he didn't know was that somewhere out in the galaxy, the two strangers had never forgotten the man who gave them food, warmth, and shelter when they had nothing, and one day far in the future they would return, not as hungry fugitives, but as something far greater. If you want, I can start part 2 with the Starship's arrival and the surprise reunion. Keeping the same style, 10 years passed, like the slow turning of a distant moon. Vega 9 colony had grown larger, but for Jackson Reed, life had not gotten easier. The small repair shop that once had a steady flow of customers was now struggling. Giant automated service stations had moved into the area, promising instant repairs at half the cost. Jackson still had a few loyal customers, old miners, freighter captains who preferred human hands over machine arms, but each month the bills seemed heavier. He had learned to live with the constant worry, patching the holes in his finances the same way he patched broken hull plates, just enough to hold for another week. It was a quiet evening. The neon signs outside buzzed softly. Jackson sat at his workbench, tinkering with a malfunctioning plasma regulator, the carved stone from long ago still holding down a stack of repair orders. He hardly noticed it anymore. Then, a deep humming filled the air. It wasn't the usual drone of cargo haulers or patrol ships. This sound was richer, more powerful, and it made the windows tremble. Tools on the bench rattled. Jackson frowned and stepped outside. The night sky above the colony glowed with shifting colors, as if the stars themselves had come closer. The hum grew into a resonant thrum that seemed to sink into his bones. People were coming out of their homes, pointing upward. Then they saw it. Descending through the clouds was a massive starship, larger than any vessel Jackson had ever seen. It wasn't built like human ships. No sharp angles, no exposed metal. Instead, it was smooth and elegant, like a single piece of crystal shaped by the wind. Faint streams of light flowed across its surface, changing colors as it moved. Gasps echoed through the streets. The ship slowed, hovering silently just above the ground. Its sheer size blocked half the street, casting long shadows. Every window reflected its shimmering surface. Jackson's breath caught in his throat. What in the void? With a gentle hiss, a ramp extended from the ship's belly, touching down on the cracked pavement. The air seemed to hum with invisible energy. Two tall figures began walking down the ramp. They wore long ceremonial coats, trimmed with silver and flowing like liquid light. Each had a crest of gold on the chest and a circular emblem on the shoulder. The crowd whispered, "Royal Guards? Ambassadors?" "No. Look at their eyes." Jackson didn't move. For some reason, he couldn't take his eyes off the two figures. There was something familiar about the way they walked, the way they carried themselves. The pair reached the end of the ramp and stopped. One of them pulled back the hood of her coat. Lavender skin, large, bright eyes that seemed to shine in the dim light. Jackson's chest tightened. The other did the same. Her smile was small but warm, the kind that felt like sunlight breaking through a storm. It couldn't be. It had been 10 years. Those two had been small, shivering, half-starved children. These were tall, confident young women, their posture straight, their clothing woven with threads of light. But the eyes? Yes, the eyes were the same. The taller one stepped forward. Her voice was stronger now, but Jackson still heard the echo of that night. "Jackson Reed," she said, "we have been looking for you." The crowd around them murmured, but Jackson could barely process the words. Looking for me? I don't understand. You may not remember us, the shorter one said, her tone gentler. But a long time ago, you gave two strangers a warm meal and a safe place to sleep. Jackson's mind flashed back to the cold night, the torn blanket, the couch in the back room. You... Yes, the taller one said. We were running from danger then. You didn't know who we were, but you helped us anyway. Jackson rubbed the back of his neck, feeling awkward under the stares of the crowd. I just did what anyone would do. No, the shorter one said firmly. Not anyone. Many would have turned us away. You didn't. That choice saved our lives. The taller one lifted her chin. I am Princess Vielle, heir to the Lithirian Empire. This is my sister, Princess Arian. We have traveled across many systems to find you. A ripple of shock went through the onlookers. The Lithirian Empire was one of the most powerful civilizations in known space. For two members of its royal family to appear here was unthinkable. Jackson stared at them, lost for words. Your royalty? Royalty, yes, Vielle said. But once we were nothing more than frightened fugitives in the cold. You gave us hope when we had none. Arian's voice softened. We came to repay a debt, and to offer you something in return, something that will change your life forever. Before Jackson could respond, the sisters stepped aside, gesturing toward the open ramp of the Starship. Come, Vielle said. The Aurora Crown awaits. The name rolled through Jackson's mind like a distant echo. His feet felt strangely heavy. Yet a part of him wanted to see what was inside that incredible vessel. He glanced once at the crowd. Dozens of faces stared back, curious, awestruck, and maybe a little jealous. He took a deep breath and stepped toward the ramp. The hum of the ship seemed to grow louder as he approached. The closer he got, the more he could see. Intricate carvings along the entrance, glowing lines woven into the walls like veins of light. As he reached the top of the ramp, a sudden thought struck him. 10 years ago, he had given two strangers a bowl of stew. Now, those strangers were inviting him aboard a ship that looked like it belonged in another universe. Whatever waited for him inside, he knew one thing for certain. Life was never going to be the same again. The ramp of the Aurora Crown closed behind Jackson with a soft hiss, shutting out the noise of the crowd outside. Inside, the air was warmer, carrying a faint scent of something floral and clean, unlike anything he had smelled in the colony. He stood just inside the entrance, looking around in awe. The walls weren't made of metal panels like human ships. They were smooth, glowing faintly with shifting colors, as if they were alive. Patterns of light rippled gently along the corridors, guiding the way deeper inside. Princess Vielle and Princess. Arian walked ahead, their steps confident and unhurried. Jackson followed, still trying to make sense of what was happening. This is your ship? He asked quietly. It belongs to the Lithirian Royal Fleet, Vielle replied without looking back. It is our personal flagship. Jackson let out a low whistle. Not bad for a couple of kids who once shared a couch in my shop? Arian glanced over her shoulder with a small smile. Not bad for the human who gave us stew on a freezing night. They reached a large circular chamber. The floor was polished to a mirror shine, and the ceiling above was a dome showing a perfect view of the stars outside. It felt like standing in open space, without the danger of a vacuum. Vielle gestured toward a curved seating area. Please sit. There is much to tell you. Jackson eased into the seat, feeling the soft material mold perfectly to his shape. Arian took the seat beside him, while Vielle stood in front, her hands clasped behind her back. 10 years ago, Vielle began. Our lives were in great danger. Our family had ruled the Letherian Empire for generations, but there were those who wished to seize power. Our father, the Emperor, learned of a plan to assassinate us. To protect us, he sent us away in disguise with only a small escort. Arian's voice softened. The escort never made it. We were attacked on the journey. Our transport crashed far from the main trade routes. We had no credits, no safe passage, and no one we could trust. Jackson frowned. So, you ended up on Vega 9? Yes, Viel said. It was one of the few places we could blend in, but it was dangerous even there. We could not reveal our names. We wandered the streets for days, growing weaker. That night, we thought we might not see another sunrise. Arian looked at him directly. Then you found us. You didn't ask who we were. You didn't demand payment. You just helped. Jackson shifted uncomfortably. It wasn't much, just food and a place to sleep. To us, it was everything, Arian said, her voice steady. You saved our lives. We promised that if we ever regained our home, we would find you again. Viel's tone grew firmer. It took years to restore peace in the Empire. We had to fight battles, some political, some less so. But once we were safe, our promise remained. We sent agents, searched records, followed traces, and finally, here you are. Jackson leaned back, still trying to absorb it all. So, all this ship, this meeting, it's because I gave you dinner once? Viel's lips curved into the smallest of smiles. Kindness, especially in dark times, carries more weight than you know. There was a pause. The only sound was the soft hum of the ship. Then Arian reached into her coat and took out something small. She placed it on the table between them. It was the carved stone Jackson had given a place on his desk for the past decade. Only, this one was different. It glowed faintly from within, the patterns shifting like liquid silver. You kept the first one we left, Arian said. It was a token of gratitude. This one is a seal of trust. It marks you as a friend of the Letherian royal family. Wherever you travel in our space, it will open doors. Jackson stared at the stone, feeling its faint warmth under his fingertips. I don't know what to say. You will have time to think, Viel said. But first there is something else. We came not only to repay you, but to ask for your help once more. Jackson raised an eyebrow. Help? With what? The forces that hunted us have not vanished completely, Viel said. A shadow still moves against the Empire. Our enemies know we are here on Vega 9. This time they will not hesitate to strike in the open. Arian added, You are not part of our politics. You are an outsider. That makes you unpredictable and valuable. You can go where our agents cannot. Jackson gave a small laugh. I'm just a mechanic. Perhaps, Viel said. But you are also a man who acts without hesitation when others are in need. We need that again. The words hung in the air. Jackson looked at the glowing stone once more, then at the two young women who had once been hungry, frightened strangers on a cold street. He had no idea what kind of trouble he was stepping into, but something told him that walking away wasn't an option. All right, he said at last. Tell me what you need me to do. Viel nodded once, a gesture of respect. Good. Then your journey truly begins. Arian's smile returned, warmer this time. Welcome aboard, Jackson Reed. Outside the dome, the stars seemed to burn, brighter, as if the galaxy itself was leaning closer to see what would happen next. Jackson had expected starships before. He had repaired freighter engines and patched cargo haulers, but nothing had prepared him for the inside of the Aurora Crown. Viel and Arian led him down wide corridors, their footsteps silent on the smooth. floor. Light flowed along the walls in gentle patterns, changing colors with each turn. The corridors twisted and curved in ways that made Jackson feel like the ship itself was alive. "This place," he said, his voice low. "It's incredible." Arian smiled. "It is more than a ship. It is a symbol of our empire's hope and technology. Everything inside is built to last for centuries." Vial gestured to a large chamber filled with devices and glowing screens. "This is the bridge. From here we can navigate through entire star systems. Sensors extend light years into space, and every ship in the fleet communicates with this control room." Jackson stepped forward cautiously, touching a smooth panel. It pulsed under his hand, responding instantly. He had fixed machines all his life, but none had responded like this. "Even the smallest action here can be felt throughout the ship," Vial explained. "But you are not here as a pilot yet. First, you must understand what this ship represents." Arian led him to another section. The walls opened to reveal a garden floating in zero gravity, plants suspended as if swimming in the air. Tiny streams of water spiraled upward, feeding the greenery in midair. Jackson blinked, amazed. "Gravity gardens?" he asked. "Humans haven't invented this yet." "Not humans, no," Vial said. "But the Litharians have mastered it. Every corner of this ship is designed to support life, beauty, and balance. It is more than a weapon or transport, and it is a home." Jackson walked slowly among the floating plants, reaching out to touch a leaf that shimmered with internal light. He had never seen anything like it. A small smile appeared on his face. He felt at peace. "You deserve this," Arian said softly, "for what you did for us. You have saved us once, and we want to save you in return. Not just in life, but in opportunity." Vial took him to a viewing chamber. Beyond the transparent walls stretched the galaxy itself, stars, nebulae, and distant planets in breathtaking clarity. "We offer you citizenship in the Litharian Empire," she said. "Access to trade routes, education, and resources far beyond your colony. And if you wish, your own vessel, one that you can call home." Jackson turned to face them, words catching in his throat. "This is all for me?" "Because of you," Arian said. "Because of the man who saw two strangers in need and chose to help. That choice echoes far beyond what you can imagine." For a moment, Jackson could only stare at them, thinking about the cold alley 10 years ago. Two small, scared girls. A bowl of stew. A blanket. He had never expected a single act of kindness to grow into something like this. Vale continued. "We know life in human colonies is hard. You have worked quietly, without recognition. Now, we offer you recognition and a chance to explore the stars, not as a guest, but as a friend and ally of the Empire." Jackson shook his head. "I don't know if I can. I've never been anywhere beyond Vega 9. "You've already shown courage," Arian said. "You walked into danger to help others. You are capable of more than you know. The rest will come, with experience." They walked on, reaching a hall lined with small personal ships, sleek vessels of different designs. "This is the Litharian craft yard," Vale explained. "Your ship awaits. We can customize it for you. Anything from speed to defense to living quarters. It will be your home among the stars." Jackson ran his fingers along one of the ships. It gleamed in the soft light, perfect for exploration. He imagined flying it, leaving the colony behind, seeing planets he had only dreamed about. The idea thrilled him, but also scared him. "What if I fail?" he asked. "What if I'm not ready for this?" Vial smiled. "You were ready for something much simpler, helping two strangers in need. If you could do that, you can handle what comes next. We will be with you." Arian placed a hand on his shoulder. "And if you ever feel alone, this ship, this empire, will always be a safe place for you. You are part of our family now." The words sank in. Jackson's chest tightened. He had lived a quiet, small life, repairing broken machines, fixing what others discarded. He had never imagined such vast possibilities. Vial led him to a chamber filled with maps and holograms of star systems. If you accept, your first journey will be a tour of Letherian space. You will see colonies, moons, and planets you cannot even imagine. Then, if you wish, you can embark on missions, explore uncharted regions, or learn the secrets of our technology. Jackson's mind raced. For so long he had thought survival was enough. But now survival felt small. Opportunity stretched. Before him, like the infinite stars outside, Arian handed him a small device, a key to one of the personal ships. "This is yours," she said. "When you are ready, it will open your vessel and unlock everything inside. Consider it a gift and a responsibility." He turned the device in his hand, feeling the smooth metal. The weight was comforting, almost like a promise. Vial looked at him, her expression serious. "Before you leave this ship, there is one final matter. Trouble still follows us. Our enemies are not entirely gone. The Empire is safe, but shadows linger. You may be asked to help, not as a soldier, but as someone who can see what others cannot. Can you do that?" Jackson's fingers tightened around the device. He remembered the two small faces in the alley, the fear, the hunger. He had saved them once. Now they were offering him a chance to save others, or at least protect them from shadows. I'll do it," he said finally. "I'll help." Arian smiled, and Vial nodded. "Then welcome to your new life, Jackson Reed," Vial said. "The stars are waiting." Jackson took a deep breath, looking around the ship. He felt small, yet somehow powerful. The galaxy stretched before him, vast and unknown. But for the first time in his life, he was ready to step forward. The hum of the Aurora Crown filled the corridors, a promise of adventure, friendship, and challenges to come. And Jackson knew deep in his heart that nothing would ever be the same again. The calm of the Aurora Crown did not last long. Just as Jackson began to feel at ease among the Letherian technology, a sharp alarm sounded through the ship. Red lights pulsed along the walls, and a low, threatening hum vibrated in the floor. Vial and Arian appeared at his side instantly, their expressions serious. "We have been discovered," Vial said. "Our enemies know we are here, and they are coming for us." Jackson's heart raced. What? What can I do? I'm just a mechanic." Arian placed a steadying hand on his shoulder. "You are more than that. You have a way of seeing solutions where others see only problems. We need you now." The princesses led him to a control chamber filled with holographic maps of nearby space. Red blips marked enemy ships approaching at high speed. "We can fight," Vial explained. "But our shields will not hold forever. If they breach the inner decks, the ship could be compromised." Jackson's eyes scanned the displays. He noticed something others had overlooked, a minor flaw in the energy distribution. Grid. A direct hit could overload the shields, and if not fixed quickly, the attack would destroy the ship. "I can help with that," he said. Vial raised an eyebrow. "You can?" "I can reroute the grid, stabilize the shields long enough for you to maneuver," Jackson explained, already moving toward the engineering deck. "But I'll need access to the main conduits." Arian nodded. "We'll clear the path. Go." Jackson raced through twisting corridors, dodging startled crew members, and the flashing lights of warning signals. He reached the conduits, massive glowing tubes of energy pulsing like veins, and set to work. Tools he had used all his life now felt almost alien in his hands, responding to his touch as if the ship itself recognized his intent. Minutes felt like hours as he worked. Sparks flew, panels hummed, and the ship shuddered with the approach of the attackers. Outside, enemy vessels drew closer, firing beams that painted streaks of light across the hull. Finally, with a hiss and a surge of energy, the conduits stabilized. The shields held firm. Jackson wiped sweat from his forehead and allowed himself a brief moment of relief. At that instant, a warning blared. Boarding pods were attempting to breach the lower decks. Vial and Arian were already moving, coordinating the crew and preparing defensive systems. "You've done enough for the moment," Vial said, "but stay close. We may need your hands again." Jackson followed them to the tactical chamber, where he could see the attackers clearly. Strange, sleek ships with jagged edges and sharp angles maneuvered like predators. Jackson felt a surge of fear, but also determination. He had helped the princesses once when they were children. Now he could do it again. The battle raged for what felt like hours. The Aurora Crown twisted and turned through space, evading enemy fire while countermeasures deployed. Jackson assisted wherever he could, rerouting power, sealing doors, repairing minor damage. Every action, small or large, kept the ship in one piece. During a brief lull, Arian turned to him. "You are doing more than anyone expected. Your courage, it is remarkable." Jackson shook his head. "I'm just doing what I can. You taught me to act when it matters." Vial gave a faint smile. "And it matters now." The final attack came suddenly. An enemy pod slipped past the outer defenses, aiming directly for the royal chamber. Jackson's instincts kicked in. He grabbed a control panel and initiated an emergency shield boost, buying precious seconds. Arian guided Vial and the crew to safety as the pod exploded harmlessly against the reinforced barrier. When the last of the enemy ships retreated, silence returned. The Aurora Crown floated through space, damaged but intact. Red lights faded to their normal soft glow. Vial exhaled, relief and gratitude in her voice. "You have saved us again, Jackson. Not just our lives, but the safety of the Empire." Jackson leaned against the wall, exhausted but proud. "I just did what I could. You fought too. I didn't do it alone." Arian placed her hand on his arm. "Even so, your role was crucial. Without your quick thinking, the outcome could have been very different." For a moment, the three of them stood in silence, looking at the stars outside. The battle was over. But the experience had changed something in Jackson. He no longer felt small or ordinary. He had faced danger, thought fast under pressure, and made a difference. Vale finally spoke. "You saved us, Jackson, and now it is time to fulfill our promise." Jackson looked at her, unsure what she meant. "You have earned the trust and gratitude of the Litharian Empire," Vial said. "We wish to give you your own starship, fully equipped, ready to explore. You are no longer just a human mechanic. You are a friend of the Empire." Arian added, "The ship is yours to command. You can explore, learn, and grow. And should danger come again, we will be there, as we were tonight." Jackson's eyes widened. He looked back at the carved stone, now glowing softly in his pocket. A decade ago, it had been a small token of thanks. Tonight, it felt like a symbol of a future he could never have imagined. I don't know what to say," he admitted. Vial smiled. "You don't need to say anything. Just accept it. Accept that kindness is never wasted and that small acts can change the course of lives, even the fate of an entire empire." Jackson nodded, a mixture of awe and humility flooding through him. "All right. I accept." Arian's eyes sparkled. "Then welcome to your new life, Jackson Reed. The stars await and you are ready." For the first time, Jackson felt the vastness of space not as something distant and unreachable, but as a place where he belonged. His small life on Vega 9 had taught him courage, empathy, and persistence. Now those lessons had brought him here, aboard a flagship, trusted by royalty and poised to explore the galaxy. He realized that what had started as a simple act of kindness, serving two hungry, frightened girls a warm meal, had come full circle. The universe was larger than he had ever imagined, and his place in it had grown beyond anything he could have dreamed. Jackson took a deep breath, glancing out the window at the stars stretching endlessly ahead. With a quiet smile, he whispered, to himself, "Let's see where this journey takes us." And with that, the Aurora Crown moved forward, leaving Vega 9 behind, carrying Jackson into the unknown, where adventure, discovery, and the echoes of his past courage awaited. Jackson Reed stood on the bridge of his own starship, a vessel he had chosen and named Horizon's Dawn. The polished surfaces reflected the soft glow of the control panels, and beyond the transparent walls, the stars stretched infinitely. He could feel the hum of the ship beneath his feet, not a machine, but a living presence that responded to every command, every touch. It had been months since the battle that had brought him fully into the Letherian world. He had trained, learned their technology, and explored several systems. Each journey was a discovery: moons with sparkling ice fields, planets with forests of towering crystalline trees, and alien species whose cultures rivaled humanity's own in depth and beauty. Yet, despite the wonders around him, Jackson never forgot the lessons from his past. The humble streets of Vega 9, the cold night, the two young girls he had fed without knowing who they were. Those lessons had led him here, and he carried them like a compass. Vale and Arian often visited, not as rulers, but as friends. Their bond with him had grown deeper than mere gratitude. They discussed politics, trade, and the mysteries of space, but they also laughed together, shared stories of past adventures, and sometimes just watched the stars in silence. One quiet evening, as Jackson adjusted the ship's navigation system, a message arrived from the Letherian High Council. It was brief but clear. The stellar honor of Life Bond has been granted to Jackson Reed. A lifetime pass to Letherian space is now yours. He leaned back, letting the words sink in. Recognition had never been his goal, but the knowledge that the Empire trusted him and considered him part of their world filled him with quiet pride. It was a reminder that courage, kindness, and perseverance were always noticed, even if not immediately. Arian appeared beside him, a small smile playing on her lips. "You've earned this, Jackson. You've grown into a remarkable man." He shook, his head feeling both humility and amazement. "I just did what I thought was right. I never imagined it would lead to all of this." Vielle joined them, her eyes reflecting the star field beyond. "It is proof," she said, "that even the smallest act can ripple across time and space. You fed us once, and now your life is open to the universe." Jackson chuckled softly. "I guess it really does pay to be kind." The conversation was interrupted by a soft chime from the control panel. Sensors indicated an uncharted system. Ahead, glowing faintly with a nebula that shimmered like liquid gold. Jackson's pulse quickened. This was exactly the kind of adventure he had dreamed of as a boy in Vega 9, discovering something no one had ever seen. He activated the ship's engines and gently adjusted the course. The Horizon's Dawn responded instantly, weaving through the stars with elegance and precision. Vielle and Arian watched beside him, sharing the thrill of the unknown. As they entered the nebula, the light played across the bridge in ever-changing patterns. Jackson could feel the energy of the place, alive and vibrant. He realized that this was more than exploration. It was a chance to learn, grow, and help others along the way. During the journey, Jackson often thought of the colony he had left behind. Vega 9 would always be his home in memory, a reminder of where he had started and what he had learned. But now, he had a larger home: the galaxy itself. The princesses explained that while the Empire was secure, There were always opportunities to assist colonies, mediate disputes, and guide new worlds. Jackson's unique perspective as a human with experience among the less fortunate made him invaluable. He was no longer just a mechanic. He was a bridge between civilizations. One evening, while the ship drifted near a small blue-green planet, Jackson decided to send a message to his old neighbors back on Vega 9. He wrote simply about the wonders he had seen, the lessons he had learned, and the importance of kindness. He hoped that his words might inspire someone else, just as the kindness of two small strangers had inspired him a decade ago. Vielle watched him with a gentle smile. "You continue to teach, even without intending to," she said. Arian nodded. "And you remind us that human courage and compassion are powerful forces. We are lucky to have you as a friend, Jackson." He smiled, feeling warmth spread through him. "I just hope I can keep living up to it." Over time, Jackson became a legend among human and Letherian circles alike. He explored new systems, helped settle colonies, and even mediated conflicts that could have escalated into wars. Yet he remained humble, never forgetting that it all started with a simple act of kindness. As years passed, he returned occasionally to Vega 9, often to visit old friends and remind himself of the world he came from. He brought back knowledge, resources, and hope, demonstrating that even one person's actions could ripple across the stars. One quiet night, as Jackson stood on the observation deck of his ship, the nebula casting golden light across the walls, he looked at the carved stone he had carried for so long. It had been his first link to the Letherians, and now it was a symbol of his journey, from a small, quiet mechanic to a man who traveled the galaxy, shaping the lives of countless beings. Vielle and Arian joined him silently, watching the stars stretch into infinity. No words were necessary. The journey they had shared, the battles, the discoveries, and the bonds forged through courage and trust spoke louder than anything else could. Finally, Jackson turned to them. "Thank you," he said simply, "not just for giving me this life, but for showing me that even small acts matter." Vielle smiled and Arian nodded. "It was always your choice," Arian said. "You chose kindness, you chose courage, and now the galaxy is better because of it." The horizon's dawn lifted gently, engines humming, carrying its crew forward into the endless blackness, full of stars, worlds, and endless possibilities. Jackson felt a surge of purpose and belonging. He had lived through quiet days and small acts, only to discover that the universe itself could respond in kind. As the nebula faded behind them and new systems appeared on the star charts, Jackson knew with certainty he was no longer just a man from Vega 9. He was a part of something larger, a protector, an explorer, and a friend to civilizations across the stars. And as the ship moved steadily onward, the carved stone warm in his hand, he whispered quietly, more to himself than anyone else. This is only the beginning. For Jackson, the galaxy was no longer a place to fear. It was a canvas for courage, kindness, and the limitless possibilities of the human spirit. The stars stretched endlessly, and so did his journey.